Hello everybody, welcome to a new video. Today I am on a very comfy couch. You can't really see, but, well, you can see the cushions. There is a bit of background noise because one of our pipes has sprung a leak, and while my dad is fixing it we won't have water, and we don't know how long that's going to last, so my mother is doing a quick last load of washing as quickly as she can, and she's filling a bunch of buckets. I did offer to help, and I helped for a bit, but then she said I could go because she could do it on her own, so... Anyway, enough about all that. Today we are going to talk about a Dutch movie. Now, ignore the naysayers, ignore the haters, there are good Dutch movies. Is this necessarily one of those? I don't know. It's fun. The movie is called Pietje Bell, and it is based on an incredibly popular children's book series that was written by author Chris Apkoude between the years 1914 and 1936, so quite a long time ago already. It tells the adventures of young Pietje Bell and his gang of friends. Pietje Bell means well, but always finds himself in trouble. To this day, most Dutch children have at least seen the movie, which was made in 2002, but it is still watched by many. Some things to know before. Pietje Bell lives in the city of Rotterdam, which is Europe's largest seaport. It used to be the world's largest seaport, but then a whole bunch of Asian countries decided to overtake us. The movie is set in 1930, and what else? Pietje's dad is a shoemaker, and his older sister Marta is his school teacher, and that's really all you need to know. In the opening scene of the movie, Pietje uses his slingshot to break an egg in someone's face, gets chased by the police, and breaks up a festive procession for a newspaper tycoon called Stark, who just became a millionaire.
Dat is speciaal voor mij. Ik ben miljonair.
En ik ben Pietje Bell. Ajus.
This is very relatable content. We cut to a scene of the millionaire's competitor, Paul, not even 5 minutes into this movie, and I already have to lay eyes upon this man. Paul and I are obviously not on speaking terms. Don't worry, you will find out why. Anyway, Paul's dad has recently died, and Paul has come back from living in America to try to save his failing newspaper company. He comes across a small news item of Pietje messing up the parade and decides to print it on the front page instead of cramming it somewhere near the back like it was going to be. Okay, my accent is also not what they would call ABN, or Algemeen Beschaafd Nederlands. So if I end up pronouncing Paul as Paul, ignore that. That's just how I say it. At school, Pietje is in the middle of abusing the school's plumbing system when a new student is brought in. We've seen this boy before in a clip where Pietje notices he doesn't have any shoes and gives him his own. The boy's name is Willem, but his friends call him by his nickname Sproet, which means freckle. Somehow, Pietje manages to fling a bottle of ink into this teacher's face and gets thrown out. His sister, and remember his school teacher as well, Marta, tells him to go home and shut his eyes for all fun things. Pietje takes this literally and walks straight into the canal. A couple of hours later, he's still not home and his mother gets worried. News of this reaches the newspaper and Paul goes out to the canal to see what's up. The police fish up Pietje's cap and send in a couple of divers. The teacher, who kicked Pietje out of class, comforts Marta with the Dutch saying, "Weeds don't perish." This doesn't go over well.
Pietje is geen onkruid. Voor mij is hij een...
Een brandnetel?
Nee, een roos.
Nou, ze prikken allebei.
He switches tactics and asks her, "Hey, if they find him, would you then like to go out on a date with me sometime?" I don't really see the connection, but okay. She tells him that she would do anything to get her brother back, which he takes as a yes. Meanwhile, Pietje is fine. He's being entertained by a bunch of sailors who pulled him from the water. He arrives back at the quay to great applause. Paul puts the story on the front page. We then cut to Sproet stealing a couple of newspapers to use as toilet paper, but he makes sure to tear out Pietje's articles.
Jullie mogen niet je gat afvegen met Pietje Bell. Dat moet ik niet hebben. Zo, de rest kunnen jullie gebruiken. Wie is Pietje Bell, Willem? Afblijven! Dat is mijn vriend.
Pietje and Sproet meet again while Sproet is out shopping with the baby. Pietje accompanies Sproet home and realizes he's poor and has an aggressive father. The next day at school, Sproet has bruises on his face and tells Pietje his dad is unemployed and can't keep his hands to himself when he's frustrated about money. But, anyway, we go on to the next episode, Aunt Cateau. Pietje and his dad go to pick her up, and we hear another Dutch saying. Pietje's dad tells him to keep his eyes peeled for an old pair of pliers, because that's his aunt. This, of course, causes issues later on when Pietje demonstrates his inability to understand figures of speech and asks his aunt whether she's made of iron.
Geef me een kus.
Zeg tante, je mag wel eens naar de dokter gaan. Je hebt een verschrikkelijke puist op je neus.
Is dat kind altijd zo brutaal?
Ach, ik heb hem geleerd de waarheid te spreken. Zullen we maar een taxi nemen?
Nee, we gaan lopen. Een wandeling zal ons goed doen.
Ik hoop dat ze gauw ophoepelt.
Tante Cato terrorizes the family for the entirety of her stay. In this time we get a couple of typical hijinks, for example when Pietje tries to get rid of his aunt's nose wart by tying it off in her sleep. At another point he dresses up as a girl using her wig and dances for money, using her dentures as those clicky things. There's two reasons I'm including that, because one, Paul apparently has nothing better to do than to stalk Pietje because he's once again there with his camera, and two, I know this is crazy, but Pietje looks exactly like Millie Bobby Brown as Enola Holmes in this scene, and I needed to get that off my chest, but that's not important. Paul gets yelled at by Marta, and you can see his crush breathing its first. Tante Cato decides to leave after this. Pietje is frustrated that his joke ended up in the newspaper, and he tells his father he was trying to make money for Sproet so that his father won't hit him anymore. Meanwhile, Marta goes out to dance with the fellow teacher. This guy is Jozef, and he is the son of their neighbor, the chemist. He criticizes her new dress that she was proud of and says he would have fixed the hole in it much better than her mother did.
Geloof jij soms niet dat een jonge man kan naaien? Ik stop mijn eigen sokken. Dat naaiwerk van je moeder is prutswerk.
Now, this guy is gross, he's yucky and icky and creepy, but him being able to sew and fix his own clothes is actually a win, no matter how much this movie tries to convince me he's a loser for it. Marta asks him to dance, but he doesn't seem interested. The next day at school, Jozef locks Pietje in the supply closet because he's always late, and honestly, valid. Every authority figure in Pietje's life refuses to discipline him until he does something awful. Pietje is cold and tries to start a fire, but the smoke doesn't go through the chimney like it's supposed to, and he nearly dies. And then Jozef sees the smoke but doesn't tell Marta that he has the key, remarking to himself, life can be so simple sometimes. He just tries to kill a child. Of course, everything is fine in the end, but Paul interviews Jozef about the situation, and soon the newspapers are printing the story of how Pietje Bell tried to take revenge on his school teacher and almost burns down the school. In the weeks that follow, Pietje's media coverage by Paul's newspaper increases drastically, because, as the editor says, that nonsense sells well. The competitor, Stark, hates to see his opponent winning, but refuses to cover stories about some child, and instead decides to go all in on news of the Great Depression. In the Bell household, the depression is making itself known too. A lot of clients haven't paid their bills yet. Pietje and Sproet go to collect money from a Mrs. Sleeper, who's 6 months behind on her bill, and get a bucket of water thrown on them, except it misses them and hits Paul.
Mevrouw Sleeper, als u niet onmiddellijk naar beneden komt om de rekening te betalen van schoenmaker Bell en uw excuses aan te bieden, dan komt er een stuk over u in de krant waarin staat dat u zomaar argeloze voorbijgangers nat gooit en mijn fototoestel vernield hebt. Gelukkig. Hij doet het nog.
So, you admit that you're willing to lie and slander someone in your newspaper in order to gain monetary benefits for you or your friends. Okay, good to know. Pietje doesn't know Paul's name, but from now on he will call him the Waterman because of the bucket of water that got thrown on his head. It's not until way later in the movie that he links the face of this guy with the name of Paul Velinga. Next we get another couple of miscellaneous events. Pietje gets a job at Paul's company as a newspaper boy.
We willen allemaal miljonair worden, hè?
Juist. Als krantenjongen kun je een geweldige carrière maken.
Oh ja?
Ja, van krantenjongen tot miljonair.
Miljonair.
We zijn hier niet in Amerika.
He and Sproet also get a job helping set up the circus tent, and at the end of the day Sproet brings home 2 tickets to his dad. His dad is proud of him and tells him those tickets will bring up a lot of money on the black market. Pietje and his friends also try to earn some money by holding a circus show of their own, in which Pietje tries to copy the magic tricks he saw in the circus. In the course of a couple of minutes he smashes a gold watch and puts cake batter in a hat. Unfortunately, the second part of both tricks fail to happen. Paul is once again there in a genuinely ridiculous disguise. Somehow, Pietje manages to set a rocket alight and burn down the circus tent, and the money gets scattered over the ground in the ensuing stampede. Pietje and Sprout are afraid the police are going to come for them after this, so they decide to run away to America and become millionaires. They stow away aboard a ship, and we get our first glimpse of this legendary actor. I haven't seen him in much, so my opinion isn't very valuable, but to my knowledge he is iconic in every role he's in. In this case, he plays one of a duo of thieves, Clock and Tone. The boys get discovered and tied up. Once they manage to free themselves, they realize they are in the robber's lair with all the loot. Sprout secretly takes some of the loot and finds the circus tickets he gave to his father. The boys leave and catch a ride to the nearest town, which is Delft, where Tante Cato lives. While bringing them home, she gets in a fight with a policeman who wants to arrest the boys because they are wanted.
Ja zeg, wat een brutaliteit.
In Delft in een goedkope bovenwoning, want in Delft is de huur de helft. Tenminste, dat zeggen ze. Maar ik betaal even zo goed nog een hoop, hoor, meneer agent.
Ik ben geen agent, ik ben commissaris.
Excuus, excellentie. Ik wilde alleen maar
Je hoeft
zeggen...
helemaal niets te zeggen.
At the police station, the loot Sprout stole is discovered. After this, Sprout denies everything that Pietje had just said about the thieves. The police decide to go and check out the spot for themselves, but when the boys lead them there, the shed is empty. Outside, Paul is once again giving me more reason to believe he is a stalker, because why is he here? After all the negative publicity regarding the circus stunt and then the boys allegedly stealing things, Pietje's father actually loses customers when people find out who his son is.
Oh, ik ben blij dat dat mijn kind niet is, zeg.
At his job, Pietje not only has to sell newspapers that slander his name, the guy in charge tells him to watch it because he's going to count every cent Pietje brings in. People in the streets murmur when he passes by, and when he goes to run errands for his mother, he gets kicked out of shops. Sprout is also feeling the effects of all this.
Die vriend van jou krijgt overal de schuld van. Hij liegt en hij steelt.
Hij is mijn vriend niet.
We then get a frankly disgusting scene where Jozef gets so mad at Pietje he not only hits him with a ruler, he also starts drooling, and I'd like to move on from that as quickly as possible. On the way home from school, Jozef's carriage derails because of a stone that fell on the tracks, but because Pietje was in the neighborhood, he believes Pietje did it. Somehow that news gets to the press, and Paul's newspaper reports that Pietje derailed a tram. When Pietje goes into his job, he sees the newspaper.
Die krant ga ik niet verkopen. Dat stuk barst van de leugens. Dat heb ik helemaal niet gedaan.
Pietje Bell, je bent ontslagen.
Dat hoef je niet te doen, want ik ga zelf. Voor zo'n snuitkrant wil ik niet eens werken. Welke gek heeft het eigenlijk geschreven? Ik zal die kerels uitleggen hoe ik over hem denk.
Pietje goes to ask Paul what sneaky jerk has been writing these articles about him, and Paul claims he doesn't know who has been writing them. Pietje accuses him of lying, just like the writer of those articles, because of course Paul knows who wrote those. If that's the way to become a millionaire, then he doesn't want any of it. He leaves, but not before throwing a basket of paper over Paul's head. This is then contrasted by the confetti at a parade for an American millionaire newspaper guy, and I appreciate that. This American millionaire is going on a world trip, and his Zeppelin will be stopping at Rotterdam. At this point, Pietje's father decides to step in, and he and Marta go to the newspaper. While her father is inside, Marta and Paul have a conversation over a cigarette.
Ik rook eigenlijk nooit.
Very romantic. Marta says they're here to confront the dirtbag who has been writing these lies about her little brother.
Broertje? Ja. Die smeerlap die heet Paul Velinga. Daar zijn we inmiddels achter. Een agent was zo aardig om ons dat te vertellen. Die man die schijnt zo ongeveer op het politiebureau te slapen om nieuws over mijn broertje te ontvangen. En dat zou nog niet zo erg zijn. Ik bedoel, ieder zijn brood. Maar die kerel die liegt dat het gedrukt staat.
Dat is een grappige woordspeling.
En dat noemt zich verslaggever. Hoe heet u?
Hé, Velinga. Er is een dame op zoek naar je.
Oh, ik zie dat ze je gevonden heeft.
Vuilak. Mijn broertje zou zoiets nooit doen.
Ja, maar ik heb een zeer betrouwbare bron.
Je laat hem met rust. En?
Ze hebben geen harde bewijzen.
Nou.
While they're out playing, Pietje's friend Engel tells him his mother has forbidden him from playing with Pietje. This does not stop him from joining Pietje in exploring an underground tunnel their ball just so happens to fall into. Pietje decides this will become their robber's den, from which they will fight against the newspaper. They will call their gang de Zwarte Hand, the Black Hand. Meanwhile, Stark offers to buy Paul's newspaper, but Paul declines because he's so principled. He says his newspaper can withstand quite a bit, so the economic decline doesn't have to be an issue. His competitor rightly points out that that's only true for as long as he has Pietje Bell to write about.
Totdat je die Pietje Bell kwijtraakt.
Er is meer nieuws op de wereld.
Like what, though? Your entire brand is Pietje Bell at this point. You should be paying him for all the money he's making you. Anyway, his competitor says he'll either buy Paul out or destroy him completely. As the men leave the meeting, they see their entire town is covered by black hands. Paul sends 15 reporters out to discover what's behind this. As they leave the building, Jozef arrives at the newspaper. He mentions he's already helped the newspaper with news about Pietje Bell in the past and offers to give more information for money. Paul declines. For weeks, Pietje's band of robbers covers the city in black hands, and the newspaper doesn't manage to figure out a thing. Pietje's father knows more about it, but he finds it very funny and doesn't say anything. One day, the boys find out that behind one of the walls of their hideout is even more tunnel. They explore it and discover a large room full of goods. It seems Klok and Teun have relocated. Pietje doesn't feel like going to the police because they haven't exactly believed him in the past. He figures, we are a gang of robbers, and what do robbers do? They steal. So let's steal from the thieves and give the items to people in need. They anonymously leave packages of food and clothes outside the houses of poor people. On the packages they put the mark of the Black Hand. But when one night they place a package in front of Sprout's house, his father flies into a fit of rage. How dare someone think they're poor?
Het doet maar liggen voor de ratten. Nou, kom op!
Paul is also not very happy. Their recent articles have been vague with no answers, and he doesn't even have Pietje Bell anymore to write about. He decides to ask Jozef for help. He needs news about Pietje Bell. Jozef asks Marta to go dancing with him again. She's not too excited because last time they didn't really dance. But this time it's different. After 1.5 years, Jozef has finally finished his dancing course and gotten his certificate. So Marta agrees to go. At this point, he should just leave, but for some reason he decides to glibly hand her the newspaper with front and center an article about how Pietje knocked a boy unconscious so hard that the boy is still in a coma. She storms home and tells her family she's going to find Paul and demand he fire whoever wrote it. Understandably, Pietje is very upset. He marches up to the newspaper office to confront this Paul Velinga. Paul introduces himself by his name, and it's now that Pietje realizes that it's the waterman who has been writing these articles about him. They have a talk, and Paul maintains that he's not writing lies and refuses to name his source.
Je mag je bron nooit verraden.
Meneer de verslaggever die het allemaal zo goed weet, heb je mij ooit iets gevraagd? Jij verraadt je bron niet, jij verraadt de waarheid. Je bent een flutverslaggever. En die vent die die stukken schrijft over de Zwarte Hand, moet ze ook ontslaan.
It's not over for Paul. Next, Marta arrives at his home. She too comes to a realization. Paul is the director of the newspaper.
Kom binnen.
Nee, ik kan onmogelijk binnenkomen.
Wat wilde je zeggen?
Dat je die gek van een Paul Velinga moet ontslaan.
Guys, I am having a fun time. One day, while the boys are packing in food, Klok and Teun come back. But they're not alone. Sprout's father is there too. I don't know if his name is mentioned in the movie, but IMDb says he's called Jan Lampe. They discuss their plan, which involves Jan going to that millionaire Zeppelin I mentioned and exchanging some diamonds for money. Then, Sprout walks into frame. Pietje cranes in for a closer look and knocks over a bag. Sprout and his father go to look and Sprout discovers Pietje. This time, he stands by his friend and remains silent. In his office, Paul levels up his stalker stats by gazing dreamily at a photograph he took of Marta at one of Pietje's exploits. He goes out to look at the Zeppelin. He's not the only one interested in the Zeppelin. Tante Cato is back to see it, and she brought Pietje some marbles. Pietje's dad sends him over to Geelman to buy some more black shoe polish, wink wink, and Pietje overhears Jozef telling his dad he's going to ask Marta to marry him.
Denk je wel om je geld?
Suddenly, Paul is there. I wonder what he's doing here. Jozef quickly makes it clear he hasn't seen Pietje yet by offering more scandalous information. Pietje realizes he is the source.
Ja, hij is de bron van het kwaad.
So, obviously there has been some kind of switch up, or Paul wouldn't have this disdainful look on his face. So I'm going to allow you to guess what made Paul change his mind. A. He realized the reputation of his newspaper probably isn't one of serious investigation if all their front page news is sensational and revolves around one boy. B. He realized that even if the stories are true, it's cruel and damaging to air out a 10-year-old's dirty laundry on your front page, even if it's solving your newspaper's money issues. C. He realized that having only one source for all of your front page news is not exactly a sign of journalistic integrity. D. He realized that Jozef is clearly not an unbiased or trustworthy source, especially since he's being paid specifically for interesting stories. E. He realized the stories are getting very unrealistic. That was actually a trick question because it's none of these. Apparently, none of Marta and Pietje's words got through to him. What actually happened is that the young boy who got knocked out woke up from his coma and pointed out the real culprits. So, basically, Pietje was guilty until proven innocent, and now he's been proven innocent. At this, Paul apologizes. He says he owes Pietje an apology, that it's not fair to give Jozef all the blame, that he was wrong, and that he prioritized the effect of his articles over their truthfulness. And as much as I like to be a hater, I have to give credit where credit is due. This is a good apology, especially for a fictional male love interest. They're usually not very good at saying sorry, so it was surprising to me to see him do it so well. Back to Jozef and Marta. Pietje is determined to keep his sister out of the clutches of that creep, as he puts it. He asks Paul for help, but Paul says he wouldn't know how. But some plan must have been formed, because that evening Pietje hands Jozef a letter, allegedly from Marta, which explains that she broke her leg and is in the hospital. Jozef rushes to the hospital, but the Marta Bell with a broken leg he finds there is not the one he was going out dancing with. Paul apparently knew of her via one of his sources in the hospital. Is this ethical? Probably not. Of course, Marta is very disappointed to be stood up like this, but then who shows up like a knight in shining armor? Paul. Guys, I know Jozef is gross. Marta has awful taste in men to want to go out with him, he's disgusting, he's cheap, and he's mean. But deciding for Marta that she's not allowed to go out with Jozef, sending Jozef off to a different part of town, then pretending to be surprised when you find the girl alone at the dance so you can take her for yourself, is nasty work.
Wacht je op iemand?
Ja, hij had er al moeten zijn. Hij is anders altijd heel stipt.
Ook niet netjes.
Wat?
Om je zo te laten zitten.
Paul displays some TikTok-style flirting.
Sommige vrouwen zijn op hun mooist als ze kwaad zijn. Je vindt het wel goed dat ik deze even wegzet? Een roos laat je niet aan de kant zitten als een muurbloem.
Oh nee.
Nee. Een roos druk je aan je hart.
Now, mind you, at this point Marta does not yet know that Paul has repented, and yet she agrees to dance with him. Marta, girl, what are you doing? Jozef, of course, is fuming, which isn't helped when Pietje's gang throws horse dung at him. This is a bit overkill. Even my 9-year-old brother pipes up during this part to say, that's mean. Jozef does arrive at the dance hall only to find Marta is kissing Paul.
Oh jee, Jozef.
Te laat.
Guys, we are right back on the hating train because this is foul behavior. Okay, back to the thieving plot, but not now because we are going to have dinner and the light is fading. So, I will be back in a minute. So, Sprout is put in a box and the three men put it in the back of a car with a number of others. Pietje manages to climb aboard unseen and off they go to the Zeppelin. He puts black hands all over the box, which I'm not sure is the smartest thing to do, and climbs into a box himself. For some reason, the director of this movie decided it was necessary to subject me to even more of Paul's flirting at this point. But anyway, Paul opens a letter Pietje gave him, in which Pietje admits to being the Black Hand, and he tells Paul in it that the Black Hand will be in action at the Zeppelin at 10 o'clock that night. Okay, the flirting and kissing is officially over, we can relax again. Sprout's father Jan opens the box and finds Pietje. The man is straight up about to shoot Pietje through the head, but Sprout threatens to throw away the diamonds if he does so. Jan isn't very impressed and reveals the box Sprout has only carries glass shards. The actual diamonds are with Jan. He's going to sell the fake diamonds and get double the money. If Sprout doesn't obey everything his father says, Jan will shoot Pietje. Now, up to this point, I was thinking that I had somehow managed to find a Dutch movie without all too much swearing. There had been a couple of instances, but nothing much. That kind of changes from this scene on. I don't think non-Dutch people truly grasp how much swearing there is in Dutch movies, including kids' movies. Especially things like taking the Lord's name in vain, as we Christians would call it. Those are pretty normal. Anyway, Klok and Teun are knocked unconscious by two of the boys, and that's it for their role in this story. In the Zeppelin, Sprout goes to exchange the diamonds with, who else, Stark. Very irrelevant now, but this boy is so adorable, like look at him. Okay, back to the plot. Stark gets the box and Sprout gets a suitcase full of money. Of course, Stark immediately checks the box and realizes these are not the diamonds. I don't really know what the plan was here, but it went wrong. It all devolves from there. Jan grabs the suitcase and runs, but then Pietje throws his marbles on the floor and Jan trips over them. He starts shooting at Pietje. They get in a scuffle, Pietje's father punches a policeman, and in the end Stark is holding Sprout at gunpoint and Jan is holding Pietje at gunpoint. The policeman is finished off by Tante Kato. Pietje yells out that the diamonds are on Jan's body, who tries to shoot Stark but shoots Sprout instead, his son. Jan gets tackled by Paul and Pietje's father, while Pietje runs to check on Sprout.
Weet je, Pietje, we kunnen nooit meer vrienden zijn. En dat is mijn schuld. En weet je waarom? Nou? Omdat jij Pietje bent en ik niet. Zullen we ruilen? Nee, je mag jezelf niet weggeven. Ik mag weggeven waar ik genoeg van heb.
Those are some lines. I kind of skipped over most of these monologues, but this movie genuinely has some great lines. Anyway, Pietje tells the police that Sprout is his friend and a member of the Black Hand. I didn't mention this during the climax just now because I wanted to keep the momentum going, but Sprout's father is actually a pretty scary villain. He looks dead serious. I don't blame the other passengers on the Zeppelin for not doing anything, because if this man pulled out a gun, I too would mind my own business so hard, because I don't doubt his malicious intent for even 1 second. The boys hand over Klok and Teun to the police, and Pietje tells the police where to find the rest of the stolen loot. The newspaper prints the story of the hero Pietje, and suddenly Pietje's father has more customers than he can handle. Pietje and his friends get a procession thrown specially for them, and at the end they're given an award. The last scene is 25 years in the future. A graying Jozef and his father read in the newspaper that Pietje has become a millionaire in America. Jozef doesn't believe a word of it.
En als het nou eens de waarheid is?
De waarheid. Dat doet pijn.
And that's the end. Cue a banger of a song. That was Pietje Bell. Honestly, this is a fun movie. Concluding thoughts. Marta is Barbie and Paul is just Ken. Marta is a great character, but she does suffer from a lack of judgment in men. And yeah, fun movie. I think, a lot of the time when I hear people say that there aren't a lot of good Dutch movies, they're they're kind of right. A lot of Dutch, especially Dutch adult movies, are kind of messed up and just very violent and weird. But honestly, a lot of the kids' movies I genuinely enjoy. Are they going to be at the level of, you know, Golden Age Disney or DreamWorks? No, but on the other hand, the acting is always pretty good. The story is fun, and adults can enjoy it too. So honestly, I think, at least when it comes to Dutch children's movies, we have quite a few good ones. And maybe if this video does well, or if it doesn't, you know, if I feel like it, let's put it that way, if I feel like it, I might actually do the second movie in this series. Paul gets kidnapped and bonked on the head in that one, so that's gonna be fun. So maybe in a bit we'll be discussing that one. I'll have to see. I do like the idea of introducing Dutch movies to international audiences, especially since most of them aren't internationally available. And also, even if they are available, they don't have good English subtitles. But yeah, the second movie in the Pietje Bell series is also very fun, so probably I will be making a second video. But first, I need to end this one and go edit it. So, see ya!
Er is een jongen boordevol van kattenkwaad. Zijn zuster Marta wil niet met hem over straat. Hij wordt zo'n beetje om de andere dag vermist. Hij is de nachtmerrie van Geelman de drogist. De politie zoekt al jaren in dit land. Die hoofdman van de bende van de Zwarte Hand. Die is die jongen met die boterham. Die jongen is de schrik van Rotterdam. Ja, alles wat hij doet, bedoelt hij goed, dat wel. Maar de schrik van Rotterdam is Pietje Bell. Hij is het ziektebeeld van elke pedagoog. Tante Kato houdt hem al jaren in het oog. Hij had een circus, maar dat circus sloeg op hol. Hij durfde niet naar huis en kocht een krentenbol. Maar vader Bell had toch altijd al wel vermoed. Diep in zijn hart is deze jongen reuze goed. Die is die jongen met die boterham. Die jongen is de schrik van Rotterdam. Ja, alles wat hij doet, bedoelt hij goed, dat wel. Maar de schrik van Rotterdam is Pietje Bell. Hij maakt zich soms geweldig druk, dan kijkt hij scheel. Hij goochelt een horlogestuk, maar niet weer heel.